So good evening, everybody in Central and North Queensland. My name's David Young with the Boot Brisbane team based up here in Cairns. Welcome to the podcast hosted by Yes to a North Queensland State. With me this evening is Bill Bates, head coordinator of the Boot Brisbane team here in Cairns. Bill, good evening.
Good evening, David.
And our special guest this evening is Jason Borg, the NQ First candidate from Mirani down south there. And Jason, thank you for taking the time out of your evening as well as your busy schedule of the week to join us and have a chat. So thanks, Jason.
Cheers, David. Happy to have a chat with you blokes.
Yeah. Now, Jason, look, I'm sure many people from the Central Queensland sort of area are well aware of you and your involvement in the community, especially through basketball, because you're currently, is it currently the CEO of the basketball down there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm currently the CEO of Mackay basketball at present, yes.
Oh, that's excellent, mate. And look, we were just starting to talk before we decided to introduce you. You guys are currently having issues just because of the restrictions, and it's from the local government, funnily enough, to actually get things moving again.
Election signage. We were of the understanding through the ECQ that you could put up election signage on private property, but not public property until October the 5th, I believe it is. But Mackay Regional Council has now followed suit with the Whitsunday Regional Council in putting a kibosh on that and not allowing anyone to put any of their signs up, election signage, until I believe it's the 5th of October.
Wow, that's absolute rubbish, eh?
Oh, wow. No, a lot of people probably know that I'm a newbie to this political field, and I just found it weird because I've read the literature from the ECQ around signage and where you could put it up and things you could not do. But this has come in from the local government, and they're well within their rights to do it. It's a little weird that it's just happened started in Whitsunday Regional Council last week, and we got notification from Mackay Regional Council that they were going the same way. It was either yesterday or today, I can't remember now. They're all rolling into one, but I found it a little bit weird. I know a lot of people will know Jason Costigan, who's the leader of our NQ First Party. He's obviously the sitting member for Whitsunday, and it seems when Mr. Brunker was announced as the ALP candidate for that seat, who happens to also be on the Whitsunday Regional Council, it was a little bit weird. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear any of that, mate, because I was about to say it was only less than a month ago that the Queensland State Parliament passed some sort of policy to allow for an increased budget for grant, so to speak, to sitting members to actually help them with their campaigns, essentially, from what the article I read quite a while ago. I can't remember off the top of my head. Bill, do you remember that article specifically?
Oh, not overly, but yeah. I thought, it's mainly to sort of promote themselves through mail-outs and things like that in their allowances. So basically anyone who's sitting, they've got this advantage of, I think it's several $1,000s anyway, so they can pump out a bit of literature into people's mailbox, puffing up their own chest and their party's chest in regards to all their wonderful accomplishments and all the gains they've made for the people of Central and North Queensland, which probably amount to zero.
Can I just say that probably doesn't surprise me that the government is giving money to the sitting members to make it look like the government's doing a fantastic job.
Exactly, mate.
That's just probably their own.
And
especially the government's side.
Especially in the highly contested seats of Central and North Queensland, where especially with the margins that representatives like the Labor representatives hold them, it's quite unfair to people like yourself who are ready, willing, and able to actually lead your community into a far better situation. Not just for new state issues, but just in general as a better representative. And it only helps those sitting representatives, predominantly Labor, I would imagine, because they're the most marginal, by not allowing the opposition to actively advertise that there is a better choice. It only helps them. So.
Yeah, I find it bizarre, but anyway.
Yeah, well.
I think one of the most important things to look at is a few weeks back we had John Mackay on. He was the former Speaker of the Queensland Parliament from about 2009 to 2012. and he had been a minister before that, and he gave a fairly good discussion in regards to the number of times we've actually had hung parliaments. And the situation we've got here now, in Central and North Queensland, we basically got 17 state seats. I mean, I don't count Collide because that goes too far south. So although the Electoral Commission wraps it up as a Central Queensland electorate, it's not really in the boundary, most of it's not in the boundary of Central Queensland. But so there's 17 seats, and of those 17 seats, 11 are held by Labor. So and a lot of them are very marginal as well. So the thing is, even if they sort of, give money to sitting members and it goes to the one Green and the 30 odd LNP people, the free catters and that, it seems like they're being fair, but the thing is, really in the marginal seats that they've really got to win, that's really going to decide this election, whether it's a hung parliament or someone gets over the line with the major parties having a majority government. It's really the key is these 11 seats in Central and North Queensland that the Labor hold.
Yeah, and I think you'll find most of the seats that Labor hold are the inner city regional seats too, not the country seats. What I mean by that is obviously Mackay itself is held by Labor. Rockhampton itself is held by Labor. But if you go outside that region, the actual townships themselves, I think they're all held by either Catters or One Nations or.
I think the situation is a little bit different in Cairns. So we've got the 4 seats. So we've got Cook, which is basically always, other than sort of one time in recent history, it's been the LNPs when Newman had his landslide. But other than that, it's usually sat in the Labor stronghold. And the 3 other seats we've got here are basically Barron River, which extends up towards Douglas before it drops out, and then we've got Cairns City itself, and then Mulgrave to the south. So they're the strongholds, and then, as you said, then you start to get intersected by Hill, which is KAP, Hinchinbrook, which is KAP, and then you go back down to, you start getting into the Townsville seats, and you've got the Free Labours in those. So that's the sort of situation we've got.
I guess we could say,
a lot of them are marginal.
Yeah. Sorry, Bill, finish your thought.
A lot of those are marginal, and they're winnable by a much better candidate at any time. Well, I don't think too many of the Labor Party or incumbent Labor Party members have got a lot of runs on the board.
Well, and this is the point as well, and if this is the case where both local government and if it probably wasn't local government, I'm sure the state government would be doing something along those lines, playing dirty, where if the Labor candidates in these marginal seats are already getting an upper hand in what is the 2020 the year of disruption, only making it more unfair and difficult for candidates like yourself, who show a high caliber of need and want to change the community for the better. It's only unfair and undemocratic, as one of our commenters just said before. And I guess, mate, you can only brush it aside and just have faith that the electorate is only going to be more and more inclined through these tough times with these ridiculous restrictions like that. Nonetheless, Jason Borg's their guy, and NQ First is their party. So I'm sure it'll all go well anyway, mate.
Oh, well, I just found it weird. I found it really strange that it's only in the Whitsunday and the Mackay electorates, like regional government areas, and it just so happens that Jason Costi takes up a lot of that area, so it just seemed a little bit weird to me. But anyway,
weird / targeted, possibly. We won't go too conspiracy theorist on it, but it is weird. Yes, correct.
I probably won't go as hard as he has today.
Oh well, has something happened? Has Jason been stirring the pot a little bit? Has he? I haven't seen anything.
I think you know the man, and you know that he's to the front given any opportunity.
Well, good on him, mate. As he should.
And fair enough too.
And as he should, because
fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, some of these so-called representatives in our region, Central and North Queensland, are an absolute farce of representation for the wants and needs of the residents that live within their electorates. Because we can't help but think that when they're actually there swearing to themselves that I'm going to enact change and I'm going to try and bring about the betterment of this community, and then they go and take orders from the southeast corner is ridiculous. All the more reason parties like yourselves or independents who are from the grassroots communities should have all the support of people, and all the more if they decide to hitch themselves to the wagon of creating a new state and ridding ourselves of the southeast corner altogether. And do you find, like, especially with the fact that you've been heavily involved in the local community of sporting community, I should say, do you find that in a sense that there's a bit of lacking of support of some aspects of regional sporting when it comes to, access to funds or pools of money that would otherwise be set aside to the state government, Jason? No, I'm just asking in a vague sense, because I don't expect you to go outside and put yourself in a position or anything. But do you find that sometimes that it's easy to be accessed if you're a sporting club or something that might be based in the southeast corner as opposed to somewhere like in Mackay or Cairns? Have you ever found yourself in a situation like that?
The simple answer is yes. I think most people that are involved with community sports organisations will understand that the best time to ever get any funding from any government is election time. It's around election time that the governments are looking to hand out money to everybody. Where I'm based here in Mackay, we've been quite fortunate that we've received a lot of federal funding. We have never received state funding. Well, when I say we haven't, we've received the odd $7,000 grant or something like that. But when it comes to the big ticket items, we received our money from the federal government. We were quite lucky about 9 years ago now. We got a big stimulus from the federal government to build 3 new indoor courts here, which was fantastic. But that did come about because of an election. So we had the local LNP member and the local Labor member both putting their hands up, fighting with each other for our dollar, because we were, we were very public, our organisation, Mackay Basketball. We were very successful at the time, and so the media loved us. We were winning state championships for the first time. We were running a pretty high-class program. So we were very high profile within the district. So if you're a high-profile sporting organisation within a district and you keep yourself there towards the top, whenever there is money available, it will generally come to you. The problem we've had in Mackay, in case I don't get elected, I don't want to do the wrong thing by Mackay Basketball, but as far as state government goes, we seem to miss out quite a bit. There's a organisation across the road here, fantastic organisation called the Harrop Park Country Club, and they seem to receive a lot of state government funding, and I believe their patron or president might be a former ALP member of the state government. I won't go into that too much, but read into that what you like. And so we seem to miss out. So when it comes to state funding, but luckily I've had a good relationship with the federal government, and I've been lucky enough to receive some funding from them. And we've actually got an opening ceremony here on Saturday night for a new grandstand that's actually been funded by the federal government, also I should mention a little kick in from the local government, but nothing from the state.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, just out of curiosity, you guys are in the seat of Dawson on the federal representatives, aren't you?
Well, our facility is in the seat of Dawson, but we are extremely close to the Capricornia boundary.
Right. Okay.
I myself federally live in Capricornia.
Okay.
I vote Capricornia at state level. So when I go for funding, I'm half of my members are Capricornia and half of them are Dawson, half of the members of the club. So I always, I approach both members, and same at a state level, like where the facility is, we're actually in the Mackay electorate. I live 10 minutes away, which is in the Mirani electorate.
Yeah.
And if you go 10 minutes to the north, you're in the Whitsunday electorate. So there's 3 electorates here where my members come from. So I always, I reach out to all of them.
Use it based where the waters meet. Yeah. So at least if you have Capricornia and Dawson being George Christensen, I can't remember the lovely lady's name that's representative of Capricornia, but at least they're
Michelle Landry,
yeah. At least they're doing you a solid there and getting access to those federal funds. But look, it is a shame to hear that the state representatives aren't doing necessarily pulling their weight. And look, hopefully you can replace them and try and change that. Hey.
Well, where we are is specifically the Mackay electorate, which has been an ALP seat since Jesus played football for Jerusalem, mate. So they don't really have to get out of bed that often to keep their jobs at the moment, which is unfortunate, and that's part of the problem. You know, the way I see it, mate, our state currently, for all the members who aren't in that southeast corner, and as we all know, I think there's like 73 electorates within 250 kilometres of Brisbane City. For the ones that are outside of that, they just have to toe the party line when they're in the big parties. They can't go out and say what they want to do, so I don't see how they can provide proper representation to their people.
So you've met Michael Healy here, representative of Cairns, have you?
No, I will say that I haven't.
It's a sentiment that resonates with most of especially the Labor representatives up here in Barron River and Cairns, where there's too many community organisations that have consultation with them, and it's essentially all promises but no results. And it's a party line towing sort of a system that's letting us down. And look, all the more reason that NQ First has come about at the right time, and that people actively know that the decision when it comes to anything trying to make things better, especially when it comes to the creation of a new state, that you guys, you are the candidates, you are the guys, you and the team are going to, you know, not only deliver a blow to the way things are in the southeast corner, hopefully you can flip the whole table and make it better for all of us. So, yeah.
And the other thing that I'll bring up on that point is that it's not just the ALP. Let's be honest.
Of course, yes.
The LNP's let a lot of people down, especially in the regional communities. Like the LNP federally had such a landslide in Queensland at the last federal election. The region of Queensland won the election. Let's be honest. And I think the state LNP, which should just call themselves the South East Queensland Liberals, mate, because there is no NP anymore in state government in Queensland. The National Party, there was a lot of people, like I grew up in a National Party background on a sugarcane farm, and a lot of people in this area were, you know, National Party people, but they just feel let down. Like the LNP is just so Brisbane centric, South East Queensland centric now. They are closer to Labor than the old National Party. Let's be honest. So, you know, that's part of the reason why I decided to get involved. When Costo asked me, I said, you know, I'm sick and tired of it. We're not getting representation to the regional and rural communities, especially in Central Queensland, North Queensland and Far North Queensland.
You're exactly right, mate. And that one point about the fact that there's a condensed area of 250 kilometre radius that has 73 seats out of the 93, and there's not even a full distribution of the other 20 odd in those regions of Central and North Queensland. That the mind boggles, and anybody who can see a map, the map of Queensland with all the electorates laid out, can just say, is that really how it's laid out? It's like, yeah, these huge areas have one representative in it, and it might have the same amount of people in the sardine can in this electorate down here, right near the CBD of Brisbane. But you can't tell me that the wants and needs of the 40,000 people spread out in this electorate are going to be adequately met, the same as those people when you can drive through in a 20-minute Uber.
Well, mate, if they're paying the same amount of registration, they deserve the same roads to drive on. That's pretty simple.
Well,
you know, the goat tracks that we have to drive on, and it's insane.
Well, exactly, mate. And look, all the more reason that hopefully, with a bit of a hug in Parliament, you and Mr. King of stirring the pot himself could, really cause some damage to those two major parties, and just really put it to them, give them the hurry curry, and say, listen, let's go down. We want this new state. So if you want us to help you form a government, you got to give the power to the people in Central and North Queensland, and we can only wish you the best of luck that you actively get the opportunity to push for that. But Jason, I wanted to go down just quickly because obviously one component is your involvement in the local sporting community, but as a businessman as well down there, how are you finding things, just the general environment, I guess climate, and the economy of a place like Mackay? You know, because things have been tough for Central and North Queensland for a little while now, and this whole COVID, I don't want to say debacle, but this whole COVID, complication has only make it more difficult. So what's things like on the ground down there in Mackay?
Oh, it's obviously, it's tough. The hard part here, and I get to talk to a lot of people every day because I work in an organisation where I've got people coming in all the time, constantly, day after day, and I talk to a lot of them. A lot of them are frustrated, to be perfectly honest. More so frustrated that we live in a part of the world here in Mackay that is, let's be honest, is almost or practically COVID-free currently. And then there's a few little goings-on down the southeast corner, the Logan areas, Ipswich and those sorts of things. So when the government brings out a lot of restrictions, they affect us as well. And they say why? Why are we being lumped in with the same barrel with people that are 1,000 kilometres away? It just doesn't seem right. So they're frustrated with that, obviously. Financially, I think we're not doing too bad, to be perfectly honest. The coal industry obviously plays a big part up here, and they are, they're still chugging away. Sugar itself, and when I start talking about sugar, I get a bit emotional because that's my background from when I was a kid.
Understandably, mate.
Those blokes have been doing it tough. Those blokes have been doing it tough for a long time, and they get bashed from pillar to post. They're the whipping boys of the Southeast Queensland government when it comes to environmental issues and whatnot. So the costs that it's costing these people to constantly, new regulations keep coming on and they're spending too much time sitting at a computer and filling out forms and all that sort of carry on, when what these blokes do and what they do well is go out and grow sugarcane. Let them go out and grow the sugarcane. There's too much rules and regulations about it. And then they put all the rules and regulations in, but they close down all the agricultural colleges around the state. That makes no sense to me, and they say that they are backing agriculture, which is, it's just garbage. I've been to a few presentations and that, and it's just wrong. And obviously, if anyone that follows North Queensland First will know that if we get the balance of power, one of the first things we do is rip up the reef regulations because they're a furphy, absolute furphy.
Well, mate, and it's in some regard the way that they're incessantly attacking these institutions that are essentially integral to the creation of more people being interested in these ground roots, agricultural based sort of industries is absurd because they ultimately forget that, the food that comes on your table that you like to eat after you go to your 6.5 hour job in, George Street doing nothing. It's like, you're kidding me. The people who are in Central and North Queensland that put the food on your table are also the ones that are actively making sure that the ground roots industries of this existing state are strong. And by attacking them,
100%.
you only weaken all of us.
Yeah, I actually think that some of the agricultural institutions, they've missed a trick a little bit with this COVID situation, the horrible COVID situation that we're in. But they're essential workers. When you hear the Prime Minister say essential workers, the blokes that are growing the food, they are the most essential. And they should have been, these organisations should have been really pumping their tyres up about that because, we were the essential of essential. So, I think they've missed a trick there, but I think we should really be celebrating these people and what they do. And
Can I just jump in there?
Oh,
sorry.
Did you have a thought, Bill?
Yeah, well, the reason you peak organisations are not jumping in there is because they're located in Brisbane, around George Street. Your sugarcane growers, your Ag Force, your Mins and all that, and every other organisation, your fishers, your seafood industry thing, they're down in the southeast corner. Now, they're staffed by professionals from university or whatever who've never bloody worked on the land in their bloody life. They've got the university degrees. They've got a couple of $1,000 a year job with Agforce or cane growers as media consultants or communication managers. They wouldn't have a clue. So ever since I started with Boot Brisbane and that, I've tried to engage people in Agforce like sugarcane growers like Paul Shamry and that, and sort of try to highlight them. Well, if you're really serious about representing farmers and growers and that, maybe your headquarters should be in, say, for sugarcane should be in Mackay or Ayr or something like that, and maybe for Ag Force it should be in Longreach or Emerald or something like that. And I mean, no, they think that their job is to engage with the government and the bureaucrats on a daily basis, you know, and sort of get the best result in regards to funding to enact the legislation that they put in, not stopping the crap legislation that comes in, but just get as much money out of the government to mitigate the processes that are involved as a result of regulation. So it's a strange mindset. So that's probably one of the things that they sort of, if the headquarters are actually in Ayr and Emerald and all those sort of places where they're engaging with the people they actually are supposed to represent every day, rather than engaging with people in George Street, you'd probably be a lot better off. And the other thing is, so all your cane farmers pay money into cane growers with it. So your money goes into the cane growers. That pays for a great big building down near Ann Street or somewhere like that in the city. It pays for all these people to sit in the offices there and do jobs. So you're paying rent, electricity down there. So all your fees that you're paying to cane growers is boosting the southeast economy, southeast Queensland economy. Now, if it was in Mackay or somewhere like that, all those people would be earning their money and spending their money in Mackay or wherever that is in Central and North Queensland, adding to our economy, not to the southeast economy. So it's a bit of
preaching to the converted when it comes to cane growers, mate. There's no way cane growers should be in Brisbane. They're a long way from a stick of cane in Brisbane. I can give you the tip. But
no. Paul Sham reminds me constantly that he's got members down on the Gold Coast at Rocky Point, you know, that grow about 2 ounces of cane that actually, I think Rocky Point doesn't exist anymore. It got burnt down and they actually send the cane to New South Wales to get processed. I'm not sure if that's still right, but Rocky Point actually caught fire or something years ago, but I'm not sure. So,
and
even
you're right.
down in Bundaberg, you haven't got that much cane compared to the Central and North Queensland. So,
Mackay's always been called the Sugar City. You know, it was always called the Sugar City. We used to have the Sugar Festival here, so everybody knows it as a Sugar Festival. It's one of the hashtags of Mackay basketball, actually. # Sugar City. So, I'm pretty passionate about the sugar industry. Obviously, I grew up on a cane farm, and I don't like the way, like I said, they're the whipping boys. Particularly when it comes to environmental issues, they just cop it from pillar to post. And for anybody that actually knows a farmer, they are the environmental stewards of the land. They go out of their way to make sure that they are environmentally conscious. Because for them, to let water waste away is something that they do not do. To let their fertiliser run away, hell no, it costs too much money. To let their chemicals get away, doesn't happen. So, I've seen it firsthand.
This is a fair point, Jason.
It's crazy.
It's a fair point. It's a fantastic point because it's well and truly, I guess, understood that the Central and North Queensland farmers are basically upon the world standard when it comes to best environmental practice, and it was well and truly before any government tried to step in and tell them how to do things. And we even had a guest on weeks ago. Who is a farmer, a pumpkin and fruit, general fruit farmer up in the Lakelands area up in North Queensland.
Sean Jackson,
saying thank you, Bill. And he avidly wanted to invest in putting a dam on his own property so that he could, water his crops when it doesn't rain as much as it usually does, which is, only a short period of time of the year, but it makes sense. He had the investment money to be able to do it, but insert the complications of the state government. And to be able to put a reservoir, which was not even that large, he already did all the costings, had it all worked out, all the irrigation ready, and No, a $180,000 or $200,000 investment to put a dam onto his own property, which would not only capture runoff, help mitigate that sort of a thing, runoff that would otherwise go off into the coastline into the ocean. No, and the only answers they could give him was like, well, maybe you should speak to some of the landowners in the general area, traditional landowners, and fly them all in and have a consultation and see if you can't get them to give you permission to do some other things. So he had this expensive, in excess of $100,000 to do all of this. He actually did the research, bless his soul. He actually did the costings involved in trying to do what this representative from the state government wanted him to do, and it blew the whole thing out of the water. Where it's like, I just want to build a $150,000 dam on my own property so I can water my crop for the 4 months a year when it's not torrential rain. It just makes sense. Any farmer would want to do that, and to assume that every farmer, cane farmer or not, is out to wreck the environment, and especially when they're third, fourth, and fifth generation farmers like yourself, who are avidly emotionally connected to both the land and the industry and what you're trying to achieve. Any man with a grain of salt is only going to say, well, I think you're the best person for the job and I'm just going to leave you alone to do it. And it's a hard enough gig with the fluctuations in the international market when it comes to sugar, all of that, which is outside of the scope of what we're talking about. But for the government to be actively involved themselves and make it more complicated is absurd. And all the more reason in the creation of a new Central and North Queensland state. What do you know? One of our primary things would be representatives that basically have a farmer in every electorate. And it would be
like I said, it's not just sugar. It's not just sugar. It's all those farming industries. Up north you got the bananas, and down here we've got the pineapples and tomatoes in Bowen and mangoes and all that sort of stuff. We're all talking about all this stuff. And while we're on that point, I don't know if you guys knew, but the party had announced earlier in the year that we would like to get Biosecurity Queensland decentralised and put up near Mareeba. To have that in Brisbane does not make sense. Biosecurity Queensland should be up, where the issues begin, up around the tablelands and that sort of area. So, that was something that our party also put forward to decentralise that, and it just makes sense.
Which is
probably too much sense to most people.
Logical, straightforward
common sense
thing.
Doesn't come into things.
No, exactly, Jason. It's too right. A logical, straightforward thing to put some branch of the government that actively only is involved in one component of the state and its function to put it where that is. And like you said, if there was ever, have you got security calling or something, Jason?
Sorry, mate.
No. Do you want to go?
I'll hang up on them. Sorry, I'm sitting in the office.
No, it's all good. No. I think it might be security.
No, it's not security. Definitely not security.
No, mate.
I know their number.
Sorry, mate.
They normally don't ring me unless it's 1:30 in the morning.
Oh, there you go. While you're trying to sleep, no doubt. Yeah. Sorry, I'll continue on there, mate. I just thought maybe if it was security, if you want to just let them know you were there at the work. But the whole point is, it's a logical thing to base that in a place like Mareeba, like you say, because it's a local hub of agriculture and all sorts of industries based around agriculture, and it's the gateway to the Cape where any invasion of some form of, biohazard or new bug or whatnot is going to come from. It's going to actively come from Papua New Guinea. It's going to come from Indonesia. It's going to come from this area. So, all the more reason, party, the concept of a party that's for the people of Central and North Queensland, like NQ First, and the representatives that are third-generation cane growers, truck drivers like, your colleague Clinton Hawkes, who are actively drive up and down the whole of the state, delivering produce and taking it to and from. These are the people that see the issues that are in our areas, and you guys are the people that are actively, going to solve them, because we can't count on the crumbs bringers from Brisbane, as Michael Healy likes to refer to the victories he brings back to Cairns. I've got some crumbs off the dinner table, basically. We're not going to get it. So, look, a new state that's agricultural based and has all of these sort of things in mind first when it comes to decision making is only going to be better for all of us. But all the more reason, better representatives.
Agricultural and our natural resources that we're abundant in. How people are anti-coal is beyond me. How the Labor Party can be anti-coal in certain sections, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I've followed politics for a long time, but I've never been actively involved. But for the Labor Party to be anti-coal at any level is just mind-boggling to me, and to see the CFMEU
retract their funding,
retract their funding.
The world's upside down.
I think that's happened before, hasn't it? Around election time, just to get the publicity. I don't know, I find it mind-boggling.
Can I just jump in there?
Of course you can, Bill.
Yes. It's an obvious thing. I mean, what people still vision of Australia when you're talking about things is people think, keep drifting back to how it was or what. They don't really look how much it's changed in the last 20 odd years. And the capital cities like Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne in particular, the population has blown out sky high in those areas. Now, you think, well, why does the Labor Party chase this sort of to the left, to the sort of concrete jungle environmentalists? Because there's so many areas that sort of have got no connection land. As we say, there's 73 seats down in the southeast Queensland. There's 3.5, nearly 4 million people down there. You've got to win their votes. You've got to come up with policies that go to win their votes. And that's one of the biggest problems with Central and North Queensland and with Southeast Corner, is that no party that's governing this, trying to win the whole state, contesting electorates right from one end, can actually write a policy that satisfy such a wide end of the spectrum. The people in in Southeast Queensland have got wants and expectations vastly different from the needs of people in Central and North Queensland. So the first thing they're going to do is, well, there's 73 seats down there. Well, we've got to win as many as we can, and then as long as we don't offend too many people up in Central and North Queensland, we'll garnish a few people there. And that's the situation. The thing is, that's why you need a separate state, because we are completely different. We have a completely different set of needs. Puts the math
back in our favour. Yeah, puts the math back in our favour when it comes to the people representatives and the sizes of the electorates and how they're concentrated. Yes, I agree.
And what Bill just said hits the nail on the head, and that's it altogether. They're only about winning elections. They don't really care about the people, mate. They just want to win elections, and to win elections, they know they've got to win enough seats in that southeast corner, so they don't care about the rest of the state, to be perfectly honest. So that's a really good reason for new statehood.
Right.
Yeah. Can we just talk about your electorate at the moment?
Yeah.
You're one of the few electorates that's got a non-Labor incumbent.
One Nation.
You've got a One Nation person, Stephen Andrew.
Yep.
Now, so you've got a completely different dynamic, and I've got your 2017 election results up in front of me at the moment. And Labor polled 36%, One Nation polled 32%, Liberal National polled 26%, and the Greens 4%. So it just works out whether someone can get ahead of the Liberals, have got the best chance of sort of taking, in preference though anyway, got a good chance of taking a seat.
A lot of it will come down to who preferences who.
Of course it will.
In our seat.
And I suppose the thing is that the preferencing between One Nation and NQ First, I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but I think most people, if they're going to put Greens last, Labor second last, and Libs third last, well then it's really it's really a matter of who gets in front there. And then I suppose talking to a lot of people who are in the cane industry and that like that, they're all obviously like yourself, you're old nationals type thing that are sort of gone by the board, but there seems to be still an awful lot of people who were nationals still live in the hope that somehow a Liberal National Party based in southeast Queensland is going to somehow make things a lot better for them. And I mean, I get that. I get that from the efforts of, you see the Fair Laws for Farmers campaigns that were running around just after the last election when the vegetation management came into effect. But I mean, that campaign was a complete waste of time because the legislation was going to come through anyway. So they spent a lot of time running around the state, wasting people's time they should have been campaigning that before the election in 17. But do you find that a lot of people, you're would have been a former national type person. Do you find a lot of people who are from that sort of background still live in the hope that somehow the Liberal National are going to come through with them for them somewhere in the future?
Yeah, I think that hope is dwindling.
I think it is too, but it's slow.
To be perfectly honest, it's dwindling. You only got to see what comes out of the leaders of the LNP in Queensland. I can't remember who it was a high-ranking official in the LNP who thought that the Bruce Highway ran from Brisbane to Cooktown. Now, fair income. If you don't know it turns off at Cairns, there's something seriously wrong. They've announced, their $1 billion for roads.
It starts and finishes at Gympie.
As far as the state funding is concerned, anyway, yeah.
And they announced that, they're $1 billion for roads in southeast Queensland. No, they didn't mention anything up this way. So although they're not agricultural specific, it just shows the mindset of the leaders of the party. And, like I said, I'll be honest, I was tried and true National Party person, always voted that way, but the disillusionment that people that used to go that way, seeing how southeast Queensland centric the party is, they became the LNP. But to me, it's just the LP now. The National Party section it's almost buried, mate. I don't see coming back for it, to be perfectly honest. At the end of the day, like I said, I would love to have seen that. But I just don't think it's going to happen. I think the only way that the agriculture industry and North Queensland are going to get anywhere is North Queensland first and a new state. I can't see it happening any other way.
Yes, it'll be interesting. Interesting if people can open their eyes to the fact that the Libs and the Labor Party, the two big players in politics in the whole of the nation, but predominantly this state, are just not doing it for us anymore. And it's good that Jason has had the courage to start this and find good candidates like yourself to actively want to represent the community for its best interests. And I just had a thought, gentlemen. It's a far cry from even about 30 years ago when it was the end of the Joe Bielkison sort of a period, and how quickly 3 decades can change the dynamic of state politics. Hey?
And we all know Joe was a bit of a rogue, but my goodness, he got stuff done for this state. Without him, this state wouldn't be where it is.
Of course.
As much as people think he was a bit of a rogue, and we all know that he had his moments, but he did a hell of a lot for this state.
I think one of the big things that people don't realise that up until 89, I think Joe the Fitzgerald inquiry came out in 86. So by 89, you had a change in the electoral system back to the one man, one vote. But in 1986, Central and North Queensland had 24 seats in the 89-seat parliament. Now today we've got 17 in 93. Now, that's only going to continue as Southeast Corner continues to grow at twice the population of Central and North Queensland. So that's the dilemma we face. If we stick to the status quo, we're just going to get continued diminishing representation in the state parliament. And another thing, Jason, do you think that a lot of the sort of, I suppose, non-interest in Central and North Queensland by both the Liberal and Labor Party at the state level is because maybe they continually think, well, the Commonwealth can do the heavy lifting in regards to funding and that, because you were just saying in regards to your benefit from funding at the sort of local sporting level more from the federal government than the state. So maybe that's a factor that they think, well, because we're the poor cousins, maybe the federal government will do the heavy lifting here, and they can just fly the money in the southeast corner, maybe.
Well, I think the LNP thinks that because they, like I said, the federal election, the Liberal Party won because of Queensland and a lot of regional Queensland. They wouldn't have won it without them. The big shock it was anyway. I think they were massive underdogs, but they pretty much swept Queensland. And I think the state LNP probably think that. They probably think the feds can do the heavy lifting.
Well,
I think the people...
Sorry, Jason.
Sorry, mate.
No, continue. No. Sorry, mate, yeah.
No, I was just saying, I would hope that the people in North Queensland, Central Queensland, Far North Queensland do understand what's going on at a state level, and we try and do something about it, because to rely on the federal government only works every now and then, and it only happens, like I said, every now and then, once in a blue moon. So,
well, of course,
whether or not the LNP thinks that because of what happened at the last federal election, possibly. But I think more to the point is the major parties, the ALP and the LNP, you get back to the 73 seats in the Greater Brisbane area. That's where they win it. They don't care about the rest.
We've got to break, and we have to break the cycle where with the general thought of the population of Central and North Queensland is, the Labor have been doing a terrible job. It's time for the Liberals, and then another 4 years. Now that it's 4-year terms, the Liberals have done a terrible job. Let's put Labor back in. As that state debt skyrockets further and further and further, it's only making the noose tighter, especially around the regions. It's only making that noose tighter for the whole of the state, and the sooner we can get away and break that cycle through avenues like the creation of a new state, through the support of candidates like yourself in Thank You First, all the better. Gentlemen, I just wanted to quickly introduce Jason. I don't know if you've ever met Raj Patel before. He's the gentleman that started Yes to a North Queensland State Facebook page. Raj has just joined the panel. Raj, good evening, mate.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
G'day, mate.
Yeah, Bill's also with us, Raj, but did you have a question to ask, Raj?
Yeah, a question, and I just want to read something to Jason, and I just want his thoughts on this. I'll read something that was written a long time ago, okay? For years, the North has been a lucrative source of plunder to the South, and Brisbane, the capital, being situated in the southeast corner of the colony, the revenue derived from taxation of the North has been mercilessly appropriated and expended in the remote southern districts. Indeed, precisely the same causes that make the North most anxious to separate make the South most anxious to continue the connection. The one objects to being plundered any longer, the other objects to being no longer allowed to plunder. Jason, when do you think that was written?
I honestly couldn't say. I would think it was probably about 25 years ago.
No, 1886 by a gentleman named Finch Hatton, which is near your area there.
That's part of my electorate.
Exactly. That's what I thought I might read it to you.
The beautiful Finch Hatton Gorge.
Yes.
Yes.
He was the first one, I think, who really talked about separation and just, for history's sake, I think it was strong in, your area. And the only reason I think the first petition never succeeded was all about the sugar industry and the Kanaks.
Yep.
And that's why London never allowed separation. So wow. I just thought I'd let you know. So
1886. Wow. That's
1886.
34 years ago. My Lord.
It's far too long that these continual problems have been occurring, and look, and as far as we understand, as well as even up to the point where they started the 1890 petition, which is predominantly from down in that area where it started. The only thing that really made it go to the wayside was federation itself, and the actual need and want of the people sort of dissipated with the federation event. So. All the more reason that it's been far too long that these problems have been evident by people that identify them, like yourself, Jason, like myself, like Bill, and it's up to us to try and engage the community to actively say, look, things could be significantly better for myself, for you, for everybody, and especially for our children, and we want opportunities for them. The opportunities are never going to be given to us when everybody just expects most of the revenue from whatever industry or whatever taxation it is to be spent predominantly on infrastructure down in Brisbane, down in the southeast corner. And while the highways may be long and narrow, no one cares. No one cares as long as the freeways and the overpasses are wide and strong and going to last and make 5 minutes.
And tunnels.
And tunnels, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you for reminding me, Bill. You could say that most people in the southeast corner, especially the politicians, have tunnel vision, but you can take that way any way you like. But all the more reason that...
I tell you what, the people in North Queensland would love to have the opportunity to spend what they've gone over budget on that Cross River Rail, that's for sure. We could have done a lot with that money.
Well, of course, and it's a great example.
My whole point about the Finch Hatton thing is, Jason, for me, I would say to everybody, do you want to continue to be plundered by the southeast corner? It's simple as that.
No is the simple answer.
It's as simple as that. It's that simple to be.
And I did say on my social media pages that, I had a lot of people when I decided to put my hand up to run at this state election. They asked me, why are you doing it? I said, well, I'm sick and tired of us not getting our fair share. And until people, if you're going to sit there and whinge about it, you're no good to anyone unless you put your hand up and try and do something about it. So I said, well, that's why I'm going to have a crack. I'll make some noise. I think there's a lot of people out there that think the same way. And they're thinking that the same way more and more because they can see that the two major parties in this state are just fighting over a small patch of dirt in southeast corner, and that's not going to get us anywhere. And like Raj said, they're plundering. Where would Brisbane be without the Bowen Basin, without the Northwest Minerals Province, without the agriculture industry? They'd be nowhere, and they know it.
And yet they're actively attacking these industries. Hey, that's the component that you're saying.
Exactly.
Farmers being the kicking boy of the whole of the policies when it comes to agricultural management, and when it comes to building this infrastructure around the Galilee Basin, it's like, are you guys mad? You have $100 billion of debt that's coming up within the next 5 to 10 years, and you actively want to shut down and hinder these industries which pay and keep the lights on, quite literally when it comes to coal. It's absolutely absurd, and look, all the more reason we're in a new state. We as a people that want to aim for our own destiny and you know what, provide economic prosperity to the other states in this federation, because you'd know where they'd want to be coming if we had a beautiful Heli coal-fired power station based somewhere up in the new state. They'd all be coming begging and screaming to try and buy the power of it. The demand would probably be ridiculous.
Well, that'll be in Collinsville if we have our way.
Well,
and
that's made the news for a whole lots of reasons too. I've seen they were trying to pass something in the Senate to try and stop that from happening in a sort of the funding going towards it in some way.
Well, how about we do a feasibility study and waste some money on another feasibility study? Yeah. That'd be good. Yeah. While I've just wrecked my tyre on a pothole.
Exactly, yeah.
Just getting back to the dynamics of your seat.
Yes.
You've got an incumbent from One Nation.
Yes.
So you've got a completely different dynamic. I don't know who's running for the Liberal National. It was Kerry Latter last time.
Kerry Latter ran last time. It's Tracy
He's the sugarcane industry chairman or something.
Mackay Sugar.
Down there.
Yeah. He worked at Mackay Sugar.
Yeah. So I don't know who they're putting up this time, and the other one you had a Green. So
currently we don't have a Green. We just had today Labor Party candidate announced.
Okay. And are they formable? Because you had Jim Pierce before.
Look, I don't want to be rude. I don't know him personally, but yeah.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be rude or smart. I just don't know him, to be honest. So
okay. Let's get to the guy you've got to knock off, Stephen Andrew. Now, One Nation people get votes for virtually nothing, just for plastering Miss Hanson's face on a board somewhere, and half the time, like up here, they'll have a candidate that you never see or hear or anything of, but they'll still get 10-12% vote just on the Hanson factor. Mm-hmm. Stephen Andrew is a bit different. He's from what I gather, he's been a fairly reasonable sort of member, pretty active down there. So he's got two advantages in regards to he has got seems to have a good work ethic, and he's got the Hansen factor. But here's the interesting thing now: when we pillar the Labor and the Liberals, we pillar them in regards to they're tied to their Brisbane headquarters. Now, prior, the thinking was that with the One Nation people, they had a bit more autonomy. But that's obviously been shown to be completely wrong, because Stephen Andrew now toes the party line, regardless what Miss Hansen thinks, and what policy you come up with. So last year we had Stephen Andrew come to the 7th State Rally in Townsville and speak along with George Christian, Robbie Catter, and that's talk in favour of a separate state. Now, on the 10th of October, we'd just done a New State Forum in Rockhampton, and Miss Hansen came up a day or so later, and we'd gone down to Bundaberg by then to do the forum. But the media asked her about a separate state, and she completely opposes it. Now, isn't it funny, as we're leading up to the election, we've had interviews with Malcolm Roberts, and he opposes the idea of a separate state. Now, all of a sudden, Stephen Andrew comes out and opposes the idea of a separate state. Basically because, you can't draw a line. Because if you don't know where to draw the line, you can't have a new state. So it's quite interesting that he is now a target for us in regards to, here's a guy who stood out there and sprouted out he'd support a separate state and wanted a separate state, but soon as push comes to shove, Miss Hansen comes out and says she doesn't support a separate state. He toes the line. So
where's Miss Hansen from, mate?
Yeah.
So the thing
he rolled over.
That says it all.
He rolled over and showed his belly.
So we know even One Nation people have to basically toe the party line of the South East bosses. So that is a real problem, and I think that is a good thing to give him a good clubbing over as a difference, that you actively support a separate state where where you have full confidence in the million people of Central and North Queensland to govern themselves, and they are deserving at least the same representation of Tasmania with their own bicameral Parliament, Upper House, the Legislative Council, Legislative Assembly.
Yep.
5 members of the lower house in the federal, and 12 senators batting for them. Imagine if we had 12 senators in North Queensland batting for us. I think we'd put a lot more runs on the board, wouldn't you think?
I think so. And the Northern Territory, they can do it as well. So I don't see why we couldn't do it. Pretty confident we could. Look, on Stephen, I will say, look, I have nothing. I will not say anything bad about Stephen. He's done a decent job here, and like you said, he's got a good work ethic. But a great point of difference is exactly what you just said. His party, South East Queensland centric as well. As they may say they're not, but we know Pauline Hanson's from, I believe, Ipswich, and she's opposed to a statehood in the north, and we are definitely on board with that. We've got a party phone hookup after this podcast tonight, where we're all getting together to complete our policy, which will be coming out either later this week or early next week. So everyone should be waiting with bated breath to see that, because
that's exciting news. Yeah, and look, Jason, the simple
input from Brisbane.
Sorry. Bill will want to make sure he has his 2 cents in it, Jason. So, but look, the simple point is when you yourself, based on the fact that the Constitution even says that you guys are desired of a new state for Central and North Queensland, the simple fact is the simple fact is when you guys go to consult on what would be best for a decision or any decision making processes, you all convene in Central and North Queensland and not the South East. So it's a fantastic premise that NQ First has brought to the state election. Now, gentlemen, I have to say we've come to an hour, and we do like to try and not take too much time out of our guests' time, Jason, especially if now that we know you've got to hook up after this. So is there anything to finish up tonight's conversation that you'd like to say, especially if you're a listener in the seat of Mirani?
Oh, look, at the end of the day, I'm pretty passionate about my electorate. I've lived here my whole life. Like I said, I grew up on a cane farm out at North East. And as a side, my father's original farm was resumed by the state government to build Kinchin Dam. So that's a bit interesting. But anyway, you know, I hear people around here all the time talking about our roads. They're just not good enough. We need some better roads. And people get annoyed with the advertising that they see on the television saying how the state government's got the $500 billion ring road project. Let's be honest, they're putting in 20%. The feds are putting in 80%. So it's not their $500 million project. You know, that's false advertising as far as I'm concerned. I couldn't get away with that in my business when I had it. You know, we're all about, you know, our $2 billion Roads to Revival program. We're all about, we haven't even touched on tonight, but a war on crime. It's pretty topical in towns full Mackay and Cairns, and we want to get more police out on the beat and better facilities for them to work out of. In my particular electorate, I haven't announced anything yet, but it will come later on about emergency services further up the Pioneer Valley. You know, we don't have an ambulance station for 60 odd kilometres, so I don't think that's good enough with the population growth that we had out there, and I know about the population growth, because as a real estate agent in my past life, I sold a lot of the dirt out there. You know, we're all about the coal power fire station out at Collinsville, and at the end of the day, we just want our fair share. Hashtag enough is enough, mate.
Well, mate, couldn't have been any more concise, mate. It was well said. And look, everybody knows. Look, anybody, if you're listening, that may live in the seat of Mirani and is a avid supporter, of creation for a new state for Central and North Queensland, they know who to call. They know who to vote for when they walk into the booth on election day, the 31st of October, I believe it is. And look, we can only wish you guys the best of luck, and both for your campaign leading up to the state election, as well as hopefully what would be your new tenure as a representative for Mirani. So, Jason, look, Bill, did you have any finishing thoughts just quickly?
Only in regards to hopefully the people who still holding on to the belief that the LNP is somehow resurrect themselves as actual interested in regional Australia. I just hope they just overcome that and sort of recognise that it's gone forever. So they have to get behind a new party or make a new party themselves.
Oh, well said. And NQ First, hopefully, come the state election and after, and leading up to it is that option. And Jason, we wish you the best of luck on your campaign, and say good luck to everybody else that when you say to them. And I hope your policy comes out soon when creation of a new state, eh?
Yep. Cheers, mate. Thanks for the chat.
That's no worries. Appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule, mate, and good luck on the campaign again. Look, with that, good evening, everybody that may be listening. Again, this is David Young from Boot Brisbane, based up in the Cairns. If you'd like to learn more about Jason Borg, who's the candidate for NQ First in the seat of Mirani, you can visit the NQ First website and look up all the candidates who are running in the seats north of Mirani all the way up to Cook. So you can visit their website and learn more about NQ First Party. Also, they're the only party that have in their constitution that they support the creation of a new state for Central and North Queensland, which is why Boot Brisbane is avidly supportive of them. You can learn more about the campaign for creation of a new state for Central and North Queensland if you want to visit bootbrisbane.com, where there's many flyers and videos and stuff you can read about the creation and the campaign. Likewise, you can follow our Facebook page, at bootbrisbane.com Facebook page, as well as the supporter and host of this show, which is Yes to a North Queensland State. So it's a good evening, gentlemen, and with that, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Good night, David.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Jason.
Good night. Good night.